live from Houston. Welcome everyone to today's episode of What Makes You Tick. I'm really excited that you're here. Before we dive in, just a few housekeeping notes to make this a great experience for everyone. Today, I have an amazing guest as general, but this one I'm really excited about. I'm excited that you get to connect with this gentleman. A few notes, though, before we begin our conversation, because remember, we're just having a conversation. This is an interactive live session. You're encouraged to participate and ask questions and connect with us. To ask a question, just drop it in the chat. I'll bring key insights and ask the guests any questions that you have. We'll be looking for some of your insight today, so please chime in where you can. We'll use LinkedIn's DM to comment in the comment section for the event's posting. There are 2 events. Just pick one. I'm sure it'll come to both of us. If you get disconnected, simply rejoin. LinkedIn will occasionally bump users off. No problem. Just hop on. We know many of you are listening while you're commuting. Even while you're commuting, or we have silent listeners, you're going to contribute to the show. So please do whatever you can. Again, thank you for being here. Now let's get started. My guest today is a gentleman I've had the privilege to connect with a few times. Each time we've had a conversation, he makes an impact on my life and my view. By the end of our first conversation, I knew that I wanted to have him as a guest on, and I'm sure the conversation today will make an impact in your lives as it did mine. This man's a true Texan, born and raised here in Houston's 3rd Ward. His path through the Navy, higher education, corporate management, and nonprofit impact was all paved by adversity. He's used the adversity as leverage, doubling down on faith and delivering results through humanity. He and I have a common belief, a belief that growth mindset can transform talent into skill and focus that skill into real success. If you take away anything from our discussion today, let it be that your life is a story that others draw inspiration from, whether you know it or not. He is today's guest, the guest that makes an impact on your life. Please welcome my friend and today's guest, Charlie Stein, as we find out what makes him tick. Charlie, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. How you doing?
I'm going to take you on the road with me and let you open it up whenever I have to do something in a public speaking realm or anything else like that. Thank you, Bryan. It's good to be here with you. You see this beautiful backdrop behind me. I am at the podcast studio at the Ion Houston. I am at Industrious. They have beautiful co-working spaces, and I wanted to make sure I got in a room that could meet the moment of having a conversation with you, no distractions, and we can get into it just about however you like. So thank you for having me on. And I like the idea that this is a conversation, not an interview. So let's go.
Yeah, I don't do interviews, man. I didn't go to broadcasting school. I'm just a poor old boy from South Louisiana who went to Arkansas to get an education degree and appear here in Texas.
All right.
I mean,
all right, I'll let you tell it. But since you're talking about schools and states, you see this logo on my chest. That's my alma mater, the one and only University of Houston. So shout out to all the athletic and academic departments there. Go Cougs.
No, I love that. And look, I'm a Cougar fan. I've had a lot of players that we've coached over the years that have gone to Rice and U of H. A lot of them. One of them was one of my former players who was on this. Charlie Warren, who's now a chiropractic doctor here up in the Woodlands. Nice. So yeah, and I got it since you posted. Sorry, man. I gotta give my Tigers a little prep here. The purple's not bleeding in, but still. Look, I know one of the things I want to start off with is you have a unique career path, and it's one of those that we haven't really talked deeply about, but enough where it's caught my attention and it's created a path for you in your life. So look, let's just start off and share with our guest exactly what your path has been and kind of how it's made a big impact on your life, especially how it's made an impact with trust and clarity.
Love it. Absolutely. Thank you, Stephen. I see you in the chat.
You see it?
I see that. I love it. So again, Third Ward, born and raised, right across the street from Jackie Yates Senior High School in Houston, a couple of blocks over from Texas Southern University in Houston, what you might call the inner city.
Mm-hmm.
And my household was a single parent household. My mother worked in healthcare administration. I am the descendant of entrepreneurs. My grandmother owned a beauty shop, a construction business, and a restaurant. And in that day and age, all the folks who were entrepreneurs wanted their kids and grandkids to go to school. And
Right.
so my mom was very interested in making sure that I had exposure to STEM very early. I graduated from the DeBakey High School for Health Professions in Houston. And it was at DeBakey that I took a military aptitude test. It was called the ASVAB. I think it's the Armed Services Vocational and Battery. My scores attracted the attention of service academies, and I was really interested in going to the Coast Guard Academy, but my academics, weren't there at the time. At least I didn't get the SAT score that I needed. I didn't get that application submitted in time to get in. But, my story begins to take shape here because the church that I attended featured a minister by the name of Al Edwards. And to me, it was just a minister, right? But I later found out that was State Representative Al Edwards. And once I started to learn more about how admission to a service academy is granted, I learned that you had to get a congressional nomination. And how was I going to get that among all the competitive candidates? But thankfully, through the connection of elected officials and just the community that I grew up in, I was able to receive a congressional nomination to the U.S. Naval Academy at Annapolis.
Wow.
And the late, great Sheila Jackson Lee, our dear Congresswoman for the 18th Congressional District, nominated me, and I was able to attend. But I wasn't able to attend straight away.
That's what I was going to ask. How old were you when this went on?
Yeah, so I was 17. And
Okay.
so in order to enlist in the Navy, the age requirement is 18. My mom had to sign for me to enlist in the military. And again, I talked to you about academic scores. I always had the ambition, but the performance had to catch up. Well, I had to go to the prep school at Naval Station Newport. And 3 months into attending, 9/11 happened.
Oh, gosh.
And so imagine a mother signing for your kid to
At
go
17,
to
yeah.
At 17, 3 months into the experiment, one of the worst events in history occurs.
Right.
And so that was a challenge then for my family and for me. Ultimately graduated from the prep school, went on to the Naval Academy. It's tough. It's rigorous academically. And that's where I struggled. I was also away from home for the first time.
Right.
And all the good stuff about that, seeing 4 seasons and snow and all this kind of stuff, that wasn't common in Houston. So I got a chance to be on my own, eat some different cuisine, meet some people from different places, learn what it really means to wear the uniform.
Correct.
And what that's all about, what this country is all about. Really developed a deep sense of pride in this nation and enduring respect and dedication to supporting first responders. We can get into that a little bit more, but yeah. So then, I leave the Naval Academy just because I couldn't make academic progress.
How long were you there?
Yeah, 2 years.
2 years. Okay.
Yeah, and the thing about it is the service academies have something, at least they did at the time, called 2 for 7. If it doesn't work out, you can take your 2 years, transfer someone else, full credits and everything like that. If you decide to sign on and finish the rest of your degree, then you have agreed to that service commitment afterwards. And it just happened to be that was a point in time where it was time for me to do something different.
But it still made big enough impact in your life. You were there long enough to make a big enough impact.
National Defense Service Medal, expert rifle, marksman pistol.
Yeah.
Or maybe I have that flip-flop, marksman rifle, expert pistol. Yeah. So service medals. I mean, so you're talking about an impact. The impact was the honor of service.
Right.
Right. And to forever be recognized as a veteran for that service and to be just a part of that legacy and the tradition. that makes our country what it is.
No, and we talked about, so when you got out, where did that take you?
So that took me back to my neighborhood. That took me up the street to Texas Southern University. And, I had that STEM background. And I was trying to figure out what happens next. And I hear that there's a scholarship program called the Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation. And that was from the National Science Foundation. All you had to do was major in science.
Yeah.
And okay, sure. Let me get a scholarship. Let me major in science. The way that I picked which science I would study was what was my best science grade in high school. And that was physics, of all things. And majored in physics, tutored physics, even took a journey to the National High Magnetic Field Laboratory in Tallahassee, Florida on the summer research experience. And ultimately, physics is not what I graduated from, but I did transfer over to the University of Houston and graduated with an undergrad in corporate and organizational communication, worked in student financial services, started a call center, traveled over to Rice University, worked as a financial aid counselor, left as the assistant director of financial aid, came back to University of Houston because I realized that in order to advance my career, some of those positions, competing for those positions meant advanced education.
Right.
I had to get an MBA.
Okay.
And I did.
Yeah.
And on the way out of the MBA program, a career guidance counselor asked me, all right, you've worked in higher ed, you've studied business. I know you're not coming right back in here after you walk across that stage. And it was a really a strong turning point conversation for me because it encouraged me to go out to recruiting conferences.
Yes.
And to pursue a leadership development program of which I had never heard of. And I pursued the leadership development program at AT&T at a conference in Florida. It was the National Black MBA Association Conference. And I went there with one objective in mind, and that was to join that program. And I think that focus, that clarity, that you're talking about in your show, that clarity allowed me to have conversations in a direct manner and interview and apply, and the rest is history.
And I love that because look, just being around the kids today and seeing you can obviously see that there was a connection to purpose early on, whether you knew it or not. But being able to figure out what that purpose is, I don't know that. Let me rephrase that. We suck at that. As parents, as adults, as an education system, we don't make our kids. I'm teaching class today, and I'm looking at most of these kids and going, "Yeah, you're here because the law tells you got to be here." And then there were those that weren't here, didn't show up today because they don't know why they're there in the first place. So we need to be able to do that and to make a connection. So that exactly what you said, because a lot of them don't like that path. You figured out that path on your own. Kids need help figuring out that path to be able to figure out where they're going to go. And we could do a better job of that.
Yeah. I will say that I had help personally in my life because my mom let me know what the options were. And she had a really clear vision. Now, her articulating that vision to a child was not part of the arrangement, but the obedience has results, right? And so
Correct.
I was surrounded by deacons at church who were pilots in the Army and postmaster general of the city of Houston and bankers and sheriff's deputies. So the community, going back to something that we talk about all the time, the community was not only the academic professionals attempting to guide kids in the classroom day in and day out. It was bumping into the expectations of who I would become everywhere I turned. And so I think you're right. We can do a better job of that, but it's going to take a return to community to make that realistic.
No, that's exactly. Okay. I'm gonna switch it up a little bit because you're gonna hit on my passion here, and I'm gonna start running. But I want you, because I believe that that's exactly what we need to do. Is once you teach a kid their trust and their purpose and how to understand what that is, then instead of them finding on their own way, you have a community that comes in and you look at what's it like in a day in a life. Yeah. So if you want to be in the Navy, What does that look like? What does a day look like to be able to be there? Because once you see what that day looks like, you go, okay, yeah, that connects here.
Yep.
If you look at it and go, wait a second, that's not what I thought here, then yeah, you move on to something that creates the clarity within your life.
Yeah.
And I think that's, and we look, for me, trust is a huge pillar. And I always talk about, we talk about building trust. And for me, it's you give trust, because once you give people trust, you figure out who they truly are.
Yeah.
And can I trust this person, or can I be around? Is this my person? If you don't trust them and you let them build trust, then it's like you're quantifying it. So I think it's been very elusive in business these days. It's hard to trust and define what's important within business. Maybe it's all, for me, it's like everything that's out there on social media. What do you think? I mean, why do you think trust, of course, is important, but why is it so elusive within our business these days?
Yeah, I think, business is one place where it's elusive, but I think across the board, trust is elusive. And in my experience, it is elusive because we've all had our trust violated by someone that we weren't anticipating our trust will be violated by. And if someone important to us can do that, anybody can do that. And so trust is one of those things where it takes a while to get there for most people. Now, if it's an experience like a product or something like that, whoever you like for, your food and beverage, or, your devices or entertainment, that's one thing. But for services, you need that thing to work, when you're trying to use it. And if it doesn't work and you call the person who sold it to you and they don't pick up the phone, there goes your trust.
Yeah.
But also everybody has so much at stake. I mean, unless we are independently wealthy, the decisions and the relationships that we make in business are ultimately going to impact the resources that you have available in your household.
Yes, it will.
Right. So that's not easy to give trust over. You need to see some evidence and hear some testimonials and try it before you buy it. Back to your point about this whole career matching with students, something has to be there first to validate that trust before people commit to trusting someone.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. There's two phrases. One is, I think if I give you my trust, and what you do with it is out of my control.
Yeah.
But if I give you my trust and what I see you do with it, that tells me, especially if you're a business owner, I know who you are now. I know whether I can move forward with what you've got or not. But the other thing is, one of my teaching buddies, he and I were having this conversation. Both of us, he's been very successful in business. He retired and then went to teaching. Okay. I was successful in teaching, retired, went into business, and now back to teaching. So he and I are sitting there talking one day, and we were throwing that out. And he goes, yeah. He says, there's one phrase I always tell my son, and I laugh because it applies in business. He goes, look, don't let the girlfriend you have keep you away from the wife you're supposed to have. And I'm like,
wise words.
And it's business, but it works both ways. And I looked at him, I said, it's the same thing. Why am I keeping you in? Go from a business, but I'm going to use the girlfriend standpoint. I'm going to let you go from my life because I'm keeping you away from the person that you're supposed to be with. And I'm not that person. And when you look at things that way from a trusting standpoint, even in business, it creates the onus on them. And it doesn't mean you're building the trust, because trust is built regardless, or it's torn down regardless. But if you don't give the trust, there can never be any trust that's built there, because you're worried about getting hurt. And I think what you said, there's a lot of that that's going to happen. And sometimes, look, we're both men of faith. Sometimes God has to have you go through that so that you can learn what you're supposed to learn, so you can take the next step in the trust process.
All right, you open the door, so it's open now. Okay, so I lead with faith. I live by faith. That is priority number one every day. That's my anchor. That's my foundation. And we were talking about the message that I heard in my faith community yesterday.
Share it.
How it was all about integrity. Now, what are the odds that the message at that faith community would be available to me one day before our discussion? I don't think that's statistically likely that something like that would happen. And I think it's I think it's divinely ordered personally.
Uh-huh.
Let me tell you a little bit about what I do on a daily basis.
Okay. Yeah.
I am a registered lobbyist with the Texas Ethics Commission. So when you talk about trust, it is the essence of what I do, and it's how it gets done as well. So this might be the acronym segment of our discussion. I did jot down a little note on my phone. So let me tell you with the acronym of the word trust, what I think that means. I think the T is for timing.
Mm-hmm.
It matters when you are sending a message, taking an action, all of the above. I think the R is for relationship. It matters who you are and who the person is that you are communicating with, attempting to serve, attempting to influence. I think the U is for understanding.
Mm-hmm.
What are we trying to do? What is the situation? What is
Mm-hmm.
important? I think the strategy is where the S comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we trying to do that? And the last letter in their acronym there is T, and that
Mm-hmm.
is tact.
Mm-hmm.
How do we do what we are trying to do, when we are trying to do it, and with whom we seek to do it with? If you don't have any one of those things, timing, relationship, understanding, strategy, and tact,
Yes.
trust comes unraveled before you even get your rhythm going.
No.
And so bringing that thing back to faith, if you're not rooted and grounded in something, for me, I'm rooted and grounded in the word. I believe the word to be the Holy Bible. Um, that's my anchor. That's where I come back to. But it's not an anchor that keeps me stuck from moving in life. It's when the storms of life get going and I don't know which way to go. It holds me down to not tip over. And then when it's time to move, it helps set my course on how I go about my communication and my daily tasks.
No, I love that, and that's so. Normally, to end the first segment, we talk about a book, and when we talked pre podcast, you said that sermon was your book, correct?
Well, okay. So if we want to talk about the book, then I'll get really specific, and I'll say the book of Proverbs
Uh-huh.
in the Old Testament of the Holy Bible. That would be my book that I
Mm-hmm.
would go with. And if I can interject this here in the discussion, there are two verses in the 3rd chapter of the book of Proverbs. It's verses 5 and 6. Those verses say, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't depend on your own understanding. In everything you do, acknowledge God, and he will direct your path." If I can make one book recommendation, and I have some other books that we can get
Yes.
into,
Yeah.
but if I can only make one, if that's the only one I got, I'm good with that.
So it's funny, and honestly, like my audience, I'm going to be quite frank and forward with you guys. And we talked before about my book, and my book is actually called The Art of Not Giving a Bleep.
Okay.
And it's by Mark Manson. And the way he puts it and the way he phrases it is more of connecting other people to exactly what you said, because it's about what you control and not caring about the little trivial things that you have in your life and how they can affect, and how business success begins with trust,
Yep.
purpose, and genuine care.
Absolutely.
Humor, honesty, and responsibility with fostering integrity is what he really puts into this. And it's giving too many cares or not cares about your mentality. And there were 3 big points that I pulled from this book. And this book has the way he puts it and the way he talks is very street-like. But the message behind it is very similar to what you're talking about. I mean, one is it's about being comfortable with the different, with being different, and the willingness to take and believe in who you are, and making sure that makes a connection with other people, and then making the impact with others.
Okay.
Second piece is quit giving a crap about your adversity, because the adversity is what makes you who you are. You just said that earlier. And it's something productive in your life, and it's most useful for your time and energy. So focus on where your time and energy is going and how to make that really useful. And it's always choosing about what you really care about, whether you know it or not. So life is full of failures is kind of the message. And it's about how we deal with it and don't give a crap about what's going on, but how we really deal with it, what our faith is, what we connect with, and how what we're supposed to learn. And it's funny because one of the questions I have is when I'm going through a struggle is I might get mad, but immediately I quit and I go, God, I'm here. What are you trying to teach me? What am I supposed to learn? Tell me what I'm supposed to learn.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, wow, the connection, I know it's got a different title and it doesn't quite fit, but I'm listening to the message and the message fits exactly what we're talking about today.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I've heard of the book. I have not read the book personally. Part of what you were describing, then I would expand out instead of just 5 and 6 on Proverbs 3, read the whole chapter, because the verses before it, a lot of the things, maybe that are in that book that you're referring to, people try to not care when they really do care.
Correct.
When things have impacted us in a way that is displeasing to us, then we try to distance ourselves from those negative emotions and just say, I don't care about that. But that's okay, for someone who doesn't know the word. But for someone who does know the word,
it's not okay.
Then it's not. Then you realize that discomfort is not necessarily between you and another person. It might be an opportunity to take that next step into who we were created to be, and learn, how to develop out some of our spiritual gifts. And maybe my labor was for the wrong person. Like maybe I was trying to impress somebody other than my source or my creator. Yes. And I was reminded that that's a waste of time. Like maybe that's what the negative emotion was. Or, maybe I'm trying to do something that's only about me and really can't help a lot of people based on the skills and gifts deposited in me. And so if that thing fails, well, maybe that's how I find out that that's a waste of time. So, there's a lot of different ways to look at, what makes people hesitant to trust, or what helps us develop trust in ourselves. Right. Ultimately, I think if something is built on us, it's fallible. Many times it's irreparable when we make a mistake. But if we build it on something bigger, then we have much more of a foundation to stand on, get back up from when we get knocked down.
That's trust. That's what trust is supposed to be about. And the clarity that's created through that. And I don't mean to, I'll harp on trust and clarity all day and go, okay, wow. Look, we're way behind the first set. So today's my 14th podcast. And today, What Makes You Tick is an authentic, relaxed, purposeful conversation about trust, clarity, and traction. Why? We want to help incorporate purpose in what we do and the impact that we have on our lives and the lives of others. How? By sharing business and personal stories to build clarity, a culture of trust, creating a clear, impactful message as a leader and for leaders with the insight of how it can build traction within your life and your business. Today, my guest is Charlie Stein. And look, so far we're a little bit behind because the conversation is incredibly good. But I do want to take, and this is where, look, you guys that are out there listening, I'd love some of your impact on what we're about to talk about next. One of the things I do is with my guests beforehand, we have I send them a sheet and ask them, hey, look, what do you want to talk about? Let's look at some ideas. Here's what we're going to talk about. And one of the most intriguing things that I saw was his response. And it was about discussing something with the listeners that we can all relate to, which is a challenge that we're facing that we don't have the answer to yet, but how trust and clarity can help us along our path. So I want to hear your insight into this, but I'd also like some guest interaction to any of the insights that we may need once Charles starts talking.
Cool. Absolutely. And Bryan, you're going to get people in trouble with this Charlie stuff, because you're going to have somebody walk up to me expecting me to answer to that. And they might think I'm ignoring them, but that's just not what I answer to. So I'll just give you a hard time.
No, thanks. No, I appreciate it. It's funny. I asked before do you go by Charlie at all? And then here I am unconsciously or subconsciously, it comes out.
I get it. No, so you're talking about a challenge that we're facing and you might not have the answer to, but you
Yes.
got to go forward anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like I face that every legislative session, right? So, like I said, registered lobbyist, Texas Ethics Commission. The main policy issue that I focus on with our elected officials locally and at the state level is broadband. So the digital divide is the difference between people who have the internet and people who don't.
Yes.
And sometimes that issue can be access with it not being close enough to them. It could be affordability with it being outside their budget, price range, capabilities, and it could be adoption as well. If you could afford it and it was near you, could you use it confidently and safely enough to make a positive difference in your life? And the way that we ensure that the digital divide closes in Texas takes on many forms depending on the legislative session. It could be trying to get a statewide constitutional amendment passed to create an appropriation so that the digital divide is closed through infrastructure investments.
Right.
It could be protecting communications infrastructure as critical infrastructure and making sure that the penalty for destroying that communication superhighway that our public safety officials depend on, that families depend on every day, making sure that folks can't just damage that and get away with it. We want to discourage folks from bothering with that. It's the same issue we had when folks were breaking into cars and taking catalytic converters.
Right. I remember that.
Yeah, it's pretty similar, but it's much more drastic when it happens. And so we don't know what type of legislation it's going to take to close the digital divide. And we don't know oftentimes who are going to be those key influencers to sponsor the bill, author the bill, co-author the bill. And so you talk about trust, clarity, and traction. By the time it's clear enough what legislation is necessary and who are the right players to be behind that legislation, traction is that curious thing that we find out about every legislative session. How do you get the traction? Is it your work in the community? Is it your work at the Capitol? Is it a combination or is it something totally different? And so I enjoy what I do because I get to experience all that comes with corporate life.
Right.
But I also get to experience all that it takes to directly make a difference in the community. And then the relationships and the spaces that I get to navigate through on a daily basis, no 2 days are the same. And so you talk about the challenges. Every day is a challenge. You never know what part of a relationship in a district or in a city or a county, you never know when an alarm is going to go off. But the hope is, and the intention is, the way that I go about doing my job each day, when that alarm goes off, whatever the issue might be, in a state district, in a county, in a city district, whenever that alarm goes off, the people assigned to me in my territory, they're thinking about one person that they're going to call because they trust when that phone call is made, that issue is met with the respect, the timeliness, the responsiveness that is necessary for the moment.
So if you were referring to the catalytic converter, is there, you made me think for a second, is there a lot of people that are breaking in or taking parts and reselling them like what we used to do with the, or what, not me, but what used to happen with the catalytic converter?
Yeah, copper theft is a nationwide, it's a nationwide problem. It's horrible everywhere that it's taking place.
Yeah.
And what happens when someone has chosen to go about making a buck in that way is it impacts people who depend on internet connections and phone lines for medical devices.
Right.
It impacts public safety and their ability to respond to people who are doing their best to make that cry for help when it's needed. But it's all those things in between for the small business owner, the remote worker, the family, the student.
Yeah.
It affects so much. And so, thankfully, great relationships with state lawmakers in Texas have increased the penalty for crimes like that to dissuade bad actors from thinking that's thinking that's something that they want to participate in.
No, and there's a lot of technology out there to replace it. It was something you said a minute ago about I've got 3 kids right now out of in my classes that still don't have a computer. There's a small fee that they have to pay for insurance to back it up, and it's nominal. But without them, I mean, because everything we do now in school, or at least the school I'm at, in the school district I'm at, everything is on laptop. So the kids have to go home. Most of the time they don't charge. Like they had like today, it's on Monday. So I had 5 people in my first period class out of 20 that are charging their computer. I've got 3 that still don't have it, and it's put them behind. They're not. So I can imagine when they go home, because there's nothing there, they're not doing anything at home. They don't have their computer. All of our tests, all of our stuff is on computer. It's all, technology based. Getting them, I can see that big gap of being able, 1, to get them the technology needed, but 2, I wonder a lot of times, and maybe I need to do a better job of asking this question, but I don't know that they actually have that at home either.
So it's really important for a family, which includes students, caregivers, all members of the household. It's very important for a family to have that device. There should be a distinction between what you use for academic learning and then what you put your personal insurance information on. Some folks, if they're going to do a telehealth visit, that shouldn't take place, in my opinion, on a school issued device, because that's personal, sensitive, identifiable information, and there are records that you want to protect, and that should be between you and your doctor. And if you're putting that, on a school issued device, there's an element of risk that you are assuming in that regard. But I'm not going to give that advice without also a resource.
Right.
So there are organizations out there that refurbish devices and make them available at a fraction of the cost for families who need a device, and the cost is a limiting factor. In my day-to-day work, I'm able to work with organizations like CompuDopt. It's like computer plus adopt, right? And they recycle, and they also have digital literacy training and workshops.
That's huge, yeah.
But there's another organization, at least these are the 2 that I know of, Human IT, and they do the same thing. And they often work with schools, school districts, community groups to address the exact problem that you are describing. And so, after the show, if you want to get tactical on how we can solve that problem together, I'd be happy to. But then also local community schools tend to have digital access centers,
right?
And they are open to the public. And with them being open to the public, although students are not enrolled there, it benefits the community in 2 ways. The student gets exposed to what a college campus could be like.
Right.
Then the community college gets exposure to who could be their next student, if the impression made fits. So just want to talk to you, about those resources, and we can delve more into that and how you can, be the solution to help those students get traction from their trusted Mr. Bryan here.
At least find a way, and it may be something through their, parents. That's the piece where I need to get better at. And I feel like I'm going so many different directions within what we do, which is honestly, which is one of the next topics I want to talk about, which is mindset. For me, mindset's huge. And, you always think about the different challenges you have. I was a big family guy, always have been. And when I went through my divorce, and just before and after, there was a lot of different things that changed. My mindset was the biggest. I was not a runner. Okay. I was a coach. I had some health issues. I was overweight for sure. And it wasn't because I wanted to find somebody new to date. It was because I wanted to, I went to the doctor. All this happened about the same time. I go to the doctor. The doctor says, "Hey, you've got some tests that we took, and your blood pressure, and there's some circulatory issues. We want to put you on," I think it was Lipitor or something like that at the time. And so I said, "Okay, yeah." And I asked some questions and went on, and I took it he said, "We want you to come back in a month." Okay. Took it for a month, and I came back and I looked at him and go, "Look, do I have to take this the rest of my life?" He goes, "Yeah, according to what we have, yes." I said, "So if I lose weight and if I start doing these things, will it help? And can I get off of it? He said, yeah. So literally, I changed my mindset, the way I looked at life, and my energy today was nothing like it was. I mean, it was more of a negative mindset, and I didn't quite understand what mindset was, because you're surrounded by people in the education system, unfortunately, that are very negative in mindset. And you just accept it as what's around you. And I decided, no, you know what? I'm not. So I ended up going running. I changed my diet. I stopped drinking. I stopped a lot of different things for a long period of time. Ended up going from I was weighing 204 to within a couple of months, I was at 185.
That's a big change.
No, it was huge. I ended up getting down to almost 169. Now, granted, my divorce helped with part of that.
Okay.
But when I went back to the doctor, he was like, yeah, you're like normal. What did you do? I said, and I told him, I said, this is all I did. Like, it was really just a change in mindset and a change in habit of what I did. And I'm sure that you have something that happened. Give me a story of change of mindset and how that helped you create a positive opportunity.
Yeah, I would say change of mindset for me happened just before I took on this current role that I'm working in. I was working in higher education marketing, and I thought I was pretty successful putting technology on college campuses, creating courses that were credit bearing, helping establish interdisciplinary wireless communication labs at colleges. I mean, I thought things were going great. And when the pandemic happened, companies were scrambling, trying to get the number right of how many employees they needed. And my number got called, and I had to make a quick decision what type of work I would be doing. And in that moment, I reached out to my network, and I was trying to figure out a way to keep doing what I was doing at the corporate level, but figure out what that would look like next. And we started this thing talking about faith, right? And let's stay on that, because this is a whole faith move here. Someone that I had only volunteered with reached out to me and said, "Hey, I was looking for a job. I found this job that you would probably enjoy more than I would." And wouldn't you know, Bryan, that I have been in that job through 3 legislative sessions and going on 5 years, still doing the same thing. And so the mindset for me was, man, here was the shift in mindset. Man, I am a U.S. Navy veteran, college educated, child of God. How I came through a special program to be here.
Yeah.
How is it that my services were no longer needed? But see, sometimes when resources go away, reflection, you talk about that clarity, reflection gets real clear. I've been trying everything I could try, but I hadn't been aligning to what I know to be true to the best of my ability. And man, when you really need something from the Lord, that alignment and that clarity, it's amazing how quick it happens. And so I was praying. I don't know what it is that I'm going to do next, but I know where my help is going to come from.
Yes.
And so an unlikely path into external affairs, because I did not serve in someone's office on their staff before. And I had the experiences that we've discussed in this interview. And somehow that faith of putting in the application and believing that God will continue to provide for me, my mother, my sister, and everyone else in my care. You don't need a lot of faith. You just need a little bit of faith. And I gave that to God, and God has continued to bless me in my career with doing the day-to-day and some fun stuff, with paying my bills and helping folks out.
Right.
And so the mindset shift is, don't let your accomplishments and how far you've come be all that you have to lean on when the road gets rough. Because, man, that would have been tough. I actually don't know what it's like to have that feeling.
Wow.
And I'm glad that I don't know what it's like, because I don't know how people make it without something that grounds them, whatever they may call it. I respect all people's beliefs. But for me, I leaned on my faith and I did not fall down.
No, and that's awesome. And there needs to be more of that. And I like the way you just rephrase it. You don't judge everybody by their beliefs, but to have a belief is extremely important. And there's way too much apathy. And I see it in the youngsters. And look, we're going to run out of time here. Let me do a quick reset. Look, thank you guys for listening to my 14th podcast, What Makes You Tick. Charles and I are having an authentic, powerful conversation on trust, clarity, and traction. If you have any questions, put them in the DM and send them our way. We'd love to have your questions and make some comments on them. Look, we're almost done here, and we don't have much time left. We're going to run over. There's no doubt. But I do want, I want to skip ahead because one of the things that is very passionate to me is our youth. And best advice or any advice for our kids.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's two parts to this. Is for our younger generation, the importance of trust, clarity, and traction.
Mm-hmm.
And the other piece is, and this can go for anybody, about chasing your dreams.
Okay. So trust, clarity, and traction, and then chasing your dreams. I want to touch on what you did before the reset. You talked about how much apathy that there is, and I just love the music of Forrest Frank. I love Maverick City. Okay, and what I notice is that the music and the message is catching up to the style of the generations that are coming next. Mm-hmm. Like they need something different than we did. It's the same word, but the messaging and the delivery is very important. The messaging actually builds trust.
Right.
The messaging, the style of the music, the beats, the harmonies, the references, the lyrics, that actually opens up their clarity on what they should be talking about. And then if you've ever had the experience of, you need to clean your house, but you just need something and you turned on some music and all of a sudden that house got clean. Yes. I personally think that music is a way to combat the apathy. So that's one thing. But best advice, it seems like you're asking me, what advice would I give youth about trust, clarity, and traction?
Yes. First of all, yes. Let's have a conversation about that.
Best advice is to be curious. Like, don't judge and dismiss. Be curious and inquire. For example, some kid hears the acronym STEM and they only see people who they normally would not hang out with going in the direction of STEM. Instead of making a biased decision on how they look or the things that y'all were previously able to talk about, hey, what is STEM? What makes you go to those programs every time you get a chance?
Right.
What is that? So, because a lot of kids like STEM isn't cool because older people are saying it. But if they could be influencers to one another, here's why I'm learning how to fly a drone. Not just to take pictures, but I found out when I went on this career day that I could fly a drone and do inspections for utility companies. Mm-hmm. And I can also do mapping for geographical information systems. And I could also be a first responder through flying that drone. The biggest influencer of kids is kids.
It's kids. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So my biggest advice is do not judge and dismiss, be curious and inquire. That's my advice there.
Yeah. And I'm gonna kind of follow up with you a little bit on that. It's one of the things that I think kids and that I'm seeing is that they're afraid to be on their own. And they're afraid to be different. I think if you go out and you, going back to the title of my book, and you just go out and you go, okay, wait a second, my friends don't like this, but I'm interested. I'm going to follow this person just to see what it's like, and not necessarily follow them as far as what they believe in, but I'm going to follow them to what they're going to see. So if they're going to see a drone, I might be interested in it. Let's go see what it is. You never know what's going to touch you here until you actually go and experience, even if it's for 10 minutes. And you also, once you experience it, there's no, that's the apathy part. And the part where a lot of times they just, use, I don't care to get out of doing stuff, or I don't care to not go see what it's about. that 10 minutes you might spend will tell you, yes, I really like it. I want to know more. Tell
Yeah.
me more. Or no, I really don't.
Yeah.
And I think we get that mindset, or going back to mindset, you get that the kids will get in their mind what something is about, like STEM. But they might not only understand what part of it's about, instead of going to see what the whole vision looks like. And it might have one thing in there that makes that impact. And I think if the kids get out and they just trust that fact and just see what's there, I think it can open up a large world to them, no matter what their background is.
I like what you're doing with that, Bryan, because community is still good.
It is.
Right. And you talked about people, students not wanting to be alone. I don't want to be alone all the time. I like to share and celebrate the good things that are going on in my life. So community is still a good thing.
Yep.
And learning is not their job. And that might be controversial saying that to an educator. And, I mean what I'm saying here, because their day is filled with classrooms that they are required to go to, when they do get a chance to step into some agency and decide what they want to learn about, I bet you notice from the educator's perspective, the performance changes.
It does. It's funny. Look, science is just my vessel, but I go into class, and we were talking beforehand about, the day and how it's like and the motivating of kids. But I go into my class every day, and I'm going to be straightforward with you, and I'm going to hold you down, but I might be the only positive energy that kid sees in a day. So I'm going to make sure that I am the only positive energy. If that connects them to science, or if it connects them to biology or a discussion we had, and it can make an impact and help them direct in a direction, or find a direction that they want to go, whether it's career, family, or whatever, then that's what I want to use as an educator. If I think my kids, because don't get me started on the STAR test. I understand we've got tests, but I don't think it's the only qualifier. I don't think every kid should go to college. There's a lot more out there that they need to connect their purpose to what they have. If I can help them, one thing that I say piques that interest, then I'm good. And I think if we look at that as this is what we're supposed to be doing, you'll tap into that, what you just talked about, which is buy-in. You tap into that buy-in, they're going and they're there to learn for them, not for me, not for you, not for mom and dad. They're there for them. When that happens, that's the biggest impact, because then it opens up a world that they don't know exists.
I love it, because what I heard you say is when Coach Bryan gives students a place where learning and discovery is welcome,
yes,
then they get to have experiences that give them clarity on what they're going to do after the classroom experience has come to an end, whether that's a vocational school, CTE program, entrepreneurship, 4-year college. They get to look at those options and compare and see what's best for them. Once they experience the exercise of establishing clarity for themselves, then that's when they can take matters into their own hands, take the courses that they want to take, and get some traction on the next step in their life. Is that what you just said to me?
That's pretty much what I just said. Yeah. You said it so much better than I did, though.
I'm just checking.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, look, I know a kid may come out of my class with a 60 or a 50, and that's just about effort. Honestly, it's straight up about effort, and it's about not knowing. But if they can get one thing out of the class that motivates them to where the next class they get a 60, or the next class they get a 70, and they start passing and they start realizing that they can do it and that there is interest, then that's all I can ask for. Because you never know when that maturity switch clicks on. It may be after they graduate. It may be next year. It may be the next class. I don't have that answer, and I don't think any of us do.
Yeah, and there's so many resources out there for like Career Village, for example, that has online tutors where students can access and ask some of those life exploration questions, but then get some tutoring for no cost. There's a lot of different programs, and I'll share those with you, or we can put them in the show notes, however you want to do that. But yeah,
share them with me. I'd like to be able to create some posts over the next couple of months that may help on LinkedIn, and at least for me, knowledge, and maybe I make an impact on somebody that's in my class.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, no, that's good.
So look, we're already past time, which I figured with our conversation, I figured that was going to go. Look, connect with us. If you can find a way, connect with me. If we're not connected already, send me a message. Subscribe to What Makes my Tick Pulse newsletter, which will be out here soon. Charles, how can people connect with you? Is LinkedIn one of the best ways?
LinkedIn is the best way. I have enough emails at work and at home. Thank you very much. But yeah, LinkedIn is the way. Direct message. If you can, try to do it from a computer so you can send a message with the connection request. That way we start off with some clarity and subtraction, and that will lead to our trust.
That's it. Love it. No, exactly. Look, Charles, thank you for being a guest on What Makes You Tick.
Thank you for having me, Bryan. It's been fun.
It's a pleasure. Look, let's make an impact on the lives and the communities through trust, clarity, and traction. Let's be transitional over transactional. You can find me on LinkedIn and stay connected for future episodes and deeper conversation. Charles, it's been amazing. Find my friend and please connect with him. Join me next week for a conversation with JJML, who is a friend who happens to be a business and trademark lawyer. Have fun. Go out and have a great week. See ya.